Welcome to 9 Bob Note with Paul Isles-Rush and Ken Moss.
Hello and welcome to 9 Bob Note. I am Paul.
And I'm fabulous.
You are indeed, Ken. And you're in control today. So what have you got lined up for us?
Abrosexuals. I knew it. I knew you'd laugh. This is a very serious topic. Right. This was an article I saw in the Metro, of all things.
Right.
A few months ago. About a young woman called Emma Flint. She's written an article on being abrosexual. And now these things, since we've started doing the pod, these started flagging up to me and they catch my eye. So I thought, okay, I'll bite. It's not a phrase or it's not a label I've ever heard before. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Well, you're about to find out.
Yes, educate me.
God, you've never said that. This is the power of pod. Right. When did you decide this? Is this even a label? I've never heard of it. I support you, obviously, but this doesn't sound real. Just some of the words that greeted me when I came out as abrosexual. Needless to say, we're not friends anymore. For those of you that don't know what abrosexuality is, in layperson's terms, it simply means when someone's sexual identity fluctuates and changes. Now, for the benefit of the listener at home, Paul's just rolled his eyes. The beacon of tolerance has just rolled his eyes. I read the article and, no, I didn't change my mind. I still thought it was ridiculous at the end of it. It's not really about this particular woman or being abrosexual.
Yeah.
But I, from an outsider's point of view, with no axe to grind and no beef either way, there just seems to be a new label for something every day. And it's damn confusing. We knew exactly where we were with gay, straight and bi. It covered everything, really. In various shades, of course, but you sort of knew you either were one way, the other way, or in the middle. Is that not enough? I know that there are shades of grey, and I wouldn't like to take away from... Actually, I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's not to belittle anyone who's not rigidly into those boxes, but I think creating millions of new boxes isn't helping the cause.
Yes. I mean, the first thing that strikes me from that definition is, does that not mean that you are bisexual or some people say pansexual because
I'll shag anything.
Yeah, or they're attracted to anyone of any gender, regardless of how many genders you think there are.
Yeah, and I can get on board with that, yes.
Which is fine. Abrosexual, so your sexual orientation changes and fluctuates with time. So one day you can be gay and the next day you can be straight.
Basically, yes.
So I don't understand.
See, if you don't understand... This, I want to tread carefully, but I won't. There is a reason why you people are single, and you complain bitterly that you can't find anybody. You're making it up. Of course. Who's going to put up with that? I've been having discussions recently with a young teenage girl who nobody loves the fussy eater at a party. You go out for a meal, the fussy eater... Nobody's looking at you thinking, we applaud your moral values.
Yeah.
Everybody is inwardly rolling their eyes. Everybody. Nobody's looking at you thinking, you're such a brave person. What is this all about? Of course you can't get somebody, you can't form a deep, meaningful relationship if you say, yes, I'm straight this week, but I might be a lesbian next week.
Yeah.
Right, well, I do like to know where I'm going to be. So if you're going to bin me in a week because you suddenly decide that you're back on the lesbians, well, part company here. It's not unreasonable. That's not being phobic. That's just people having a bit of a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah. So I guess the difference with this particular example between being pansexual where, I like that person, they're a man. I like that person, they're a woman. Whereas what they're saying is, I could go out and say, yep, I'm gay, and meet a man and form a relationship with another gay man, and then all of a sudden in a few months' time go, actually, I don't find you attractive anymore because I'm straight now. Like bollocks. Yes. Yeah.
I'm really trying to be tolerant here, but It's so difficult when we're bombarded with this all the time now. Who can out-weird the other?
Yes.
What was it? I've forgotten the exact mechanics, but a friend of yours, their son, came out with something and it was very, very witty.
Yeah.
What was it he said?
He said to his mum that he was semi-bisexual. And she was like, when you get that sort of, I want to say something supportive, but I'm also quite shocked because I don't think we should be having this conversation and I don't really know how to deal with it. And then, so obviously quite shocked. And then he was like, well, yeah, I'm semi-bisexual. So bisexual people like men and women. Semi means half. I like half of those groups of people. I like women. And obviously that was a joke. It just purely intended to wind his mum up. It did. It does highlight the stupidity of the whole thing, doesn't it? I think I was just looking for a message that I sent you. There was somebody who described himself on a call I was on. They were like, oh yes, I'm this and I'm that. And he described himself but he used about 5 different words. It was like demi-heterosexual, gender fluid, non-binary.
I do remember this, yeah.
Yeah. And when you sort of unpicked all of the words, it was like, well, if you take each of those for what they actually mean and put them together, you're a cisgender hetero guy. You're not trans and you like men. So why would you say all those things? And it's all about attention seeking. And I think I said to you at the time, our community, the LGBTQ community, has fought and continues to fight for acceptance and for the large part. We're making good progress.
Yes.
And for a large part, as we've said many times on this podcast, most people just don't care.
They don't. The vast majority don't care.
No. But then you get people like that. and then they're like, you have to accept me for who I am. I'm this. And they're doing it so that you ask them, well, what does that mean? And they just make something up. It's purely for attention, but this is what gets people's backs up. And it sounds like a weird thing to say, but then people are like, well, yeah, this is why.
Well, I was going to say, because again, it's largely down to this podcast and the discussions we've had. I'm forced to concede that we do live in a largely heteronormative world. And since one half of the population has given birth to the other half of the population, I can sort of see why that is. However, unfortunately, for all the progress that's been made, and there has been a lot of progress, when you get this, anybody now of any non-hetero persuasion, you get somebody like this, you're sort of lumped in with them, really. It's not doing the cause any favour. The cause, as if it's like crusade. I demand the right to be a gay. I've always wanted to be gay when I grew up.
Yeah, it's almost a backward step because when we were younger, and certainly even sort of before that, before we came along, gay people, queers were the freaks and, objects of ridicule and that kind of thing. And we said, well, we just want to be treated like normal people. We just want to be part of everything that goes on. We want equal recognition. We want equal rights. Great. Have all that. Okay. And then there's people who are like, well, now there's nothing special about me now. I want to be a freak again. And it goes back to what we've been saying endlessly. Being gay, being lesbian, being abrosexual is not a personality trait. It's part of who you are. If that's the only thing that you've got that makes you interesting or makes you stand out, that's your problem. Don't force it onto everybody else.
Well, how many times have we said that being gay or being trans or being a vegan, that's not a replacement for a personality? And I've never thought this way until about the past 12 months, but now it's a result of all this bullshit. I now see anybody that's got any sort of dyed hair, some wacky colour. I'm going to take a wild, educated guess. You don't work, and this is a replacement for a personality, and somewhere mixed in there will be a label that you've either pinned on yourself or an eating habit that you've acquired just to make yourself stand out. I don't know anybody that's really well screwed down that's got laser blue hair. They only eat vegan food and they're some weird, bizarre sexuality. I just don't know anyone well bolted down that has attracted and pinned all these labels onto themselves for basically attention. Now, none of the gay friends that I have, none of them walk into a room and where's my attention, or the people that I work with in offices and things. It's not writ large, I am a gay. Nobody gives a shit as a result. I think that could easily be labelled at any straight person. If you had somebody that was a fucking nightmare, and trust me, I've worked with those as well. There is just anybody of any persuasion that walks into a room and they're just attention. It's all on me, please.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what persuasion you are. It just does not endear you to anybody.
No. So if you're talking about gay men, there will be people who are flamboyant and camp, and it comes naturally to them, and that's just who they are. And they inevitably will be the really annoying person in the office. But then there are people who will just sort of sit there and, not draw any attention to themselves. And then when they come out as gay, they suddenly adopt all of these things. And you just think, well, you don't have to do this. Yeah, yeah.
You'll have seen that more than I will. There's only one example that I can think of where somebody's come out and then decided to be a professional gay. I just never saw the point of it. They completely changed their voice and their mannerisms, and now whether they were suppressing that before, possibly, but it wasn't looked upon as a vast improvement, and this person's freed themselves. If that's what you really like underneath, can you please go back in your box?
Yeah. We preferred the one who didn't speak. But then you do get it with straight people. You'll get the guy, as you said, in the office, whose personality is football. And, or the person in the office whose personality is vegan. So it's not just limited to LGBTQ
no,
people,
absolutely not. No, it's just it's an indicator that if somebody is doing this, it's probably for attention rather than an expression of what they are underneath.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
There's no need for it. We'll accept you as you are if you just...
Yeah. We do this presentation at work about LGBTQ people, and because we use LGBT plus in work, and one of the slides is what does the plus mean? And the plus is all the other letters. So it includes people who are intersex.
Abrosexual.
Yeah. But it includes people, like intersex people who...
Oh, yes.
Which is a sort of biological thing.
It's a very, very small percentage, but
yes.
I feel sorry for anybody that is born intersex. I think it's 0.6% of people a year are born intersex.
Yes. There's a lady called Emma Dunn, who is a civil servant, and she does the rounds doing speeches, and she tells her story about how she found out that she was intersex, and it's a horrifically sad story, but she is such a great personality. She tells it in the most hilarious way. If you ever get the chance, because you're part of the family now, definitely go along. She's also from Maverick.
Really?
Yes.
And we should get her on.
Yeah, I will. I think we're mutual followers on Twitter, so I might just... But yes, my point was, so there are people who have that intersex, but as you say, it's a very small portion of the population. There are people who are asexual or aromantic, who either have no romantic or no sexual, and that's a whole spectrum kind of thing. They're included in that. There are non-binary people who don't identify as trans, so they want their own sort of separate. But all of these people, because there's such small groups, are included as part of the plus. So this presentation that we do, there's a slide and there's loads and loads of different ones. I think there's something like, if you put the acronym together, there would be something like 52 letters. And obviously that's growing, because then you'd have to have another A for Abrosexual. and it's just, a lot of these things mean the same thing. So,
I mean, stuff's cropped up in, I would say predominantly the past sort of 5-10 years, like the whole trans thing. Because obviously you've got trans women, trans men. Transvestism seems to have dropped by the wayside now. It seems to be, if you put on traditionally women's clothing, you're now transsexual. I'm not entirely sure that's how it works. Just happen to like wearing a frock or something. I don't think it makes you trans. I just think you might...
Yeah.
And any more than a woman wearing a trouser suit is a trans man. I don't see that. So, and there are certain pigeonholes, for want of a better word, that have popped up. And they make sense. So your non-binaries and your the various shades of trans and what have you. But you start drifting beyond that. I only fancy trans women that have transitioned once and then transitioned back. Whatever the hell. There must be a word for it. It's just not helping.
No. And when you do put yourself into a niche like that, then
you isolate yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's so few people who fall into those categories. You're cutting off, and you could meet someone the next day who is perfect for you, but because they don't fit this very, very specific gender and orientation balance that you have requested, you just ignore them completely and blow your chance of happiness. It seems very, very silly. And I think we, as a community, do run the risk of sort of opening ourselves to ridicule when what we've been trying to do for years and years is cut off that ridicule and say, actually, we're really just the same as everybody else.
Yes.
But as for that
Abrosexuality.
Yeah.
I don't know whether balls to you. Let's rate this in bones.
What are you going to give it?
1. It's ludicrous. It's just not helping at all. You are bisexual and there's no getting around it. Because you're not telling me, all right, I'm straight this week. Right. So last week, you were performing cunnilingus on that young girl over there. This week, you've no interest in that at all. Bollocks. It's in there. You just either fancy a man this week or I'm just not having it. Not having it. It's attention-seeking nonsense, and I think it damages the cause of your people.
Absolutely. Completely agree. 1 from me. You're just bringing us into disgrace.
Well, on that note, it's time for a screening Queens.
Ooh.
It's a drum I think we've already banged, but I don't mind diving in the same pool twice. It's Queer as Folk. Queer as Folk on DVD is ruinously expensive if you can get hold of it at all. And I saw the complete series for £10 in one of these antique mill places out in Manchester. I'm having you. And we've both rewatched it recently in recent years. In fact, the episode we did on it, we didn't talk about it at all. I don't know. We'll have to revisit that one. But I've forgotten just how good it is. It's brilliant. It's 8 half-hour episodes in the first series, and the second series, which I've not rewatched, that was 2-hour-long ones.
Something like that.
Which was, he didn't even want to write. He just forced him to do it, and it wasn't crap, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as the first one. So, yeah, it's a bit of a retread, but I think if you can find it or in any way watch it, that's a great gay drama, and it's one that I look back on with tremendously fond memories, because it was the whole period when you were coming out or about to at uni, and that whole period in time I've just got tremendous memories of. So yeah, Queer as Folk.
Excellent. Let's watch it again.
Huzzah!
And on that positive note, we will sign off for another however long it may be.
However long it takes me to edit these.
Yeah. But we will be back at some point in the future with more fun and games for you. So until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Nine Bob Note featured Paul Isles-Rush and Ken Moss. Title music was by Mark Scheiman, and the program was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.